AB 54, consider adopting some kind of resolution or taking some kind of a position against it. Yeah, taking a position against that, because that's going to really complicate things for us. Now the other issues, the one thing I would do if you want to approve a resolution, the thing I would do is consider, like, there's some stuff that in those other resolutions they say they will honor ICE detainers, but you can't. An ICE detainer is unlawful alone. And we honor them and call ICE, but we won't hold people on an ICE detainer alone because it's unlawful.
Even if they have a violent past.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying. So what happens now is we don't find out someone has an ICE detainer.
Yeah, I get that.
Until they're on a local charge. But ICE detainers are straight up unlawful. No one in California can retain people on an ICE detainer alone. It's simply a request by the federal government.
And a point that I think should be illustrated is that ICE hasn't helped themselves. They have, someone's arrested locally for a local crime, shoplifting, burglary, whatever the case may be, booked at the county jail, and during the course of running teletypes and the like, the ICE detainer pops. And so now they're in on local charges, and they have an ICE detainer to back it. And so after the local charges are resolved, maybe they get a 20, 30, 50-year sentence, whatever. After they're done with that and they're prepared to walk out the door, then the question of the ICE detainer pops up. And they, in years past, have been held on that ICE detainer because ICE has said, yeah, we're going to come get them. And then they sit for some extended period of time, sometimes upwards of a couple of weeks, maybe longer. And then they call and say, not going to make it. And then the guy just sat. There's different positions on that, but they haven't helped themselves there.
No, so yeah, and once in 2014, and there have been multiple case decisions since that one in Oregon saying that you don't have to honor, that ICE detainers are unlawful and you can't hold someone on an ICE detainer alone. Because it's just simply a request signed by a federal agent. Again, there's no legislative or no judicial review.
Correct.
So we worked hard on trying to get ICE to just simply have a magistrate review it, sign it, and then we could retain them on it. But they haven't done it. Some of the other complications with AB 54 is it prohibits participation in federal task forces. It's really, right now the city PD has a person on a task force in Reno that lives in Reno full time, on that task force full time. We're working on an MOU with the FBI to participate in the task force, but it would be more of a part-time basis. Our people will work out of here, but when we have commonalities in these cases we're working, our people will be dual sworn as both federal agents and local law enforcement. But this would prohibit us from being able to do
I
that.
have a clarification.
Go ahead.
You're talking about AB 54 or SB 54?
I'm sorry, SB 54.
Yeah, the DVO bill.
Okay.
Yeah, SB 54.
California Values Act.
Thank you. I didn't know if you were talking about two different things.
No, my fault. SB 54.
And that's the one you're saying that needs we're taking a possession or resolution on.
Yes.
So I think the belief is that, just to kind of narrow the issue for today, the belief is that if this board were to adopt a resolution similar to Haman and or Siskiyou, that somehow when the Trump machine comes steamrolling down the road on its immigration fight with California, it's going to, defund California on transportation monies or whatever other monies, except to Haman, Siskiyou, and Lassen. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I think that the desire is to attempt to insulate Lassen from any consequence that federal folks may be thinking about imposing as a result of this conflict.
Yeah, and I'm not recommending that you don't issue a resolution. My concern is just if you do, look through it, because again, they say they will honor ICE detainers, and I wouldn't do that. I would say that we're going to do things that are, I mean, in the end, I'm going to do whatever the law, what the law requires.
That's an
no matter,
important point. That's really
no matter what, yeah, no matter what you guys say, I'm going to do what the law requires.
And that's a really good
I know
point.
when he comes to us for money.
You know what, I've been in exactly his position, though. It's really ridiculous when, you all probably remember, I was a police chief in Arcata. Well, that was probably the most green council that you ever want to work for. And try dealing with ICE and the police department there when, you know, you're sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And when it is constitutional, and it has to be constitutional, you have to do it. And I wouldn't have cared whether my counsel told me don't do that or not. I would have done it. So that's kind of the same position that you're in now. We don't want to do anything that's unconstitutional here. But on the other side, we want to make that political statement, I think much like Taima did, and say, this is crazy. If you guys want to buck the federal government, then we're going to buck you in the same way. And see how it feels. And I think that's really the political statement to make. It's a political statement. It doesn't have anything to do with the operations of what's going to happen.
No, I totally agree.
It's a political statement. But I understand full force the frustration that the sheriff has being in the same position. I had a perfect example. We had a person that we took into custody, was from one of the Soviet bloc countries, and we arrested him for another crime. I swooped down, took him away, and right away, and I had the ACLU calling me the next day. So I mean, those kind of things are real, and they don't happen very often. I can think of maybe a handful of times that I had to deal with ICE in my law enforcement career, but when it happens, I mean, there's usually a good reason for it. And but I totally agree with Jeff. You know, this is something we need to tell the state that if you're going to play the same game with the federal government, then why can't we play it with you? And I really think that's something we need to do. I'd like to see the sheriff assist us in creating a resolution that would meet at least what you have to deal with in the state law, and us making that political statement.
Well, I think that we need to also support Dean in making a resolution against this SB 54.
And maybe include that in the resolution.
Because
After reading it, it's just garbage.
we deal with public lands a lot, and those people are here more often than, you know, dealing with federal lands issues, because we do have a lot of federal lands in our county.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we're all in the same position that Dean's in. We all took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, so we got to remember that too. Bob, you have a comment?
Yeah, I note that there's a lot of folks here today, and I think that this is probably a topic that provokes reaction. And my expectation would be that there's folks in the crowd of differing views on this issue. I think that, you know, it was reported to me that that this agenda item made it to the local airwaves, and the media was reporting that the Board of Supervisors is going to be voting today on a policy to establish itself as a sanctuary county. And I didn't want to believe that that was true, because that's not what it was agendized for today. And I don't know if folks got themselves ramped up to show because that was the perception, but that's not what was going to occur today. At least I didn't see it as being agendized for that. Certainly wouldn't want to call that fake news. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
One more thing, obviously, it does impact us. It impacts, my office directly. But really, most sheriffs in California, it impacts a lot more. I mean, these guys, especially the ones with the contract facilities, the ones that have hundreds or thousands of detainees in their jail at any point in time. And obviously, I'm going to stand with those people and try to, and that's what we should do, obviously, try to provide them the support we can and help them out, because, boy, we're really, they're really putting us in a really bad spot.
If Right now, as it stands under current California law and current federal law, I think it is believed that there is no current conflict between the two. There's different schools of thought on that. But certainly, if SB 54 is approved, it sets it up where every sheriff in every county is going to have to choose whether they are going to abide by state law or whether they're going to abide by federal law. And that's a conflict that they are being thrust into if that bill passes and is signed by the governor. That will be a difficult position, and he's right there in the middle of it with 57 others.
We met with the new Attorney General a few weeks ago, and he made no qualms about it, that he has no qualms with prosecuting us if we violate state law. And that one of the it's complicated because there are different opinions on this, but the belief is that the federal government can't force state agents to enforce federal law. So it's very, very complicated. But really, this battle's going to be waged, or this war is going to be waged in, Fresno, Alameda first, all these other big counties first. But it's important to us, and we need to pay attention to it and watch it.
Very good, thank you, Dean. Does anybody from the public wish to make comments on this topic?
I do.
We'll go right here in front, start with Carol first. You got your hand up.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Carol Byers, and I want to point out something that you never hear on the news, but has a huge impact, even here in Lassen County. There was a report out several years ago by Representative Peter King, I believe he's from Iowa.
New York.
Is he from New York? Drawing a line in the sand. And in that report it said, illegals are responsible for the death of 25 Americans every day. Now you might have a shooting in Chicago, a stabbing in LA, somebody gets conked over the head in Texas and dies, and another 13 are killed as a result of illegal drivers. And the week I heard that, I heard of two people in LA that were killed by illegal drivers, and a couple of girls back east where illegal ran over them, high school girls, and killed them. And we hear scattered reports of that on the news. But if you take that 25 a day and multiply that times 365 days a year, that's 9,120-something Americans that are no longer here because they are. And unfortunately, we have an example of that right here in Lassen County, a young man who had become a statistic of that. I believe it was the end of October, when a 16-year-old boy was hit and killed by an illegal driver with no license who had been deported more than once. I understand he had a rap sheet and warrants out for him in Nevada. And yes, he might have been a nice guy. I'm sure you all know who I'm talking about. But the fact of the matter is, if he were not here, and and he had been, not back in the country multiple times, that boy would still be alive. And I think you'll never hear that on the news. You'll never hear that because it goes against what they want. And also, I have a problem with the fact that these people are they're not citizens of our country. And our laws are so screwed up now that they're afforded constitutional rights. Now, if you were down in Mexico and did something, you'd be in trouble. You wouldn't be afforded the same rights as a Mexican would be. And Mexico has a huge border wall on their southern border. If you get caught there illegally, it's 2 years in jail. You get caught a second time, it's 10 years in prison. And it's about time we started recognizing not just the economic cost, but the cost in human lives. Because then if you take that 9,120, whatever it is, over 10 years, that's almost 100,000 Americans that are no longer here because they are. And I think that's something to consider. Thank you.
Joe?
I'm Joe Turner, and one of my concerns about this whole issue is never even talked about, and I just wanted to bring to the board's attention because at least 3 of the members of the board have heard me speak too many times about representation in our government and everything. And I just want to bring up the fact that illegal foreigners are counted among the census for apportionment for districts in Congress and our state legislatures, as are legal resident aliens who are either on visas or permanent residents. If California admits that there's 3 to 5 million illegal aliens in California, that's 4 to 7 congressmen that they should not have. Foreigners have their own governments, and we have a State Department with embassies for a reason. They can communicate and deal with redress of grievance legally that way. So if we look at it from how we're really impacted up here, that's 4 to 7 congressmen that California should not be having. Also, decreasing the size of our districts for our representation, that's 6 to 10 assemblymen that that Southern California is absorbing for districts. That's 6 to 10 districts pushed further south, and then obviously cut that in half, 3 to 5 for the state senate. So really, other than the fiscal and the criminal aspect of it, 3 to 5 million illegal aliens being here, it's a permanent underclass to artificially inflate legislative representation, which is the exact same thing the slave states did with the wanting their slaves counted for apportionment, and that's how they came to the 3/5 compromise. It wasn't because the slaves were 3/5 of a person; they were treated as property. They weren't allowed to vote. The North wanted them to be freed, but the South wanted to maintain them, and they wanted their numbers inflated in Congress. So there's a much bigger impact that people aren't even paying attention to. In the case out of Texas, Evanwell versus Texas was incorrectly petitioned off of the citizen voting age population, which would have discriminated against citizens for representation who were not of voting age or who were ineligible for voting. So the Supreme Court correctly put them down 8-0 when that case went through. So I believe one thing, if we do a resolution, it should include the representation aspect, because mathematically the rural areas where we are intentionally undermined for our citizens being able to have representation in our state government and in Congress. So I just want to bring that to your guys' attention, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Rod?
I just wanted some clarification from
If you
Dean.
step to the lectern
Yeah.
and state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, Jim Hodge, Susanville. I just wanted some clarification from Dean about what I thinking that I heard. And I wanted to know right now, get my back to him,
That's all right.
from Dean, if is California currently operating against federal law during the time that we have been with Obama? I see that probably changing under Trump. So, are we currently operating against federal law, against state law? Are those two conflicting currently? And with this SB 54 that we just talked about, for sure we will be in conflict with federal law. And how might that really play out for us? Nobody probably really knows at this point, but that's definitely something that has to be looked at. So I just like a little bit more clarification. And then my other question is, do we only detain illegals here if they've committed a crime, or do we detain them because we know they're here illegally? Those are my questions for Dean.
So let me go with the last one first, just so I don't forget it. But really, the only time we become aware that someone is here illegally is after we arrest them for a crime and get that notification after booking from ICE, like Mr. Burns said. The other issue, we had a lot of discussion amongst the sheriffs about that issue. The Attorney General, he's of the opinion that the State Attorney General, that the 10th Amendment protects, I guess, the states from their agents being forced to take action by the federal government. The question, though, is, where does the supremacy clause come into play, and do we have an obligation to comply with the federal law? So this is going to be prompt question. We don't know. I think some of the sheriffs, like the sheriff out of Sacramento County, I had a pretty good discussion with him. He's an attorney, he's a sharp guy, and obviously he ran for Congress and unfortunately lost. But Scott Jones, and I mean, he's going to be one of those guys right at the forefront, trying to take in a position and taking us to court and duking it out, I guess, and seeing where we land. But it's very complicated. And the unfortunate thing is, I think, especially the state legislature, they're just doing everything they can to fight our current president, and they're really putting all of us in a really bad spot. Because I have concern about the loss of funding too. In most of these areas, typically the leverage the federal government has over the states is the funding. They can say you do it or we yank the money. This isn't the first time. We've seen it repeatedly, but there's lots of money that comes to the county from the federal government, and so I don't know that they think, again, it'll be interesting to see how that comes out, the conflicts between state and federal law.
So how did that play out with Arizona? Arizona tried to do their own immigration thing, and they were shut down.
Yeah, because immigration is under the Constitution, I believe. It's a federal.
Congress
It's
Congress and the President retain the exclusive authority to make laws related to national immigration.
Yes. That's how that one got tossed.
So California could be tossed for the same reason.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and we'll ask if anybody else has any comments they'd like to make.
Hi, my name is Eileen Richard, and I had a quick comment to the solution of this, or a solution for this problem of sanctuary cities, and that would be the state of Jefferson movement. That would separate us from Sacramento, their mandates, their heavy-handed legal laws and propositions. So instead of going through years of fighting with Sacramento and all kinds of lawsuits, we could just do that. Hopefully that will be coming soon in the future, and then we could have more control over our government and our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this topic?
My name is Lewis, and that it is a funded, or it is not a club. I mean, it's not a state. No. God, I know. But yeah, that in the state that they are letting people who want and have state licenses to vote. I mean, they can not make it easier for legal aliens to vote, and that too, when it comes to the colleges, to say that that they have it so that people who are held legally can, I know it's that they can go to colleges within in-state, but in state fee, and it can affect any county. I am from Santa Cruz, so yeah, when the legals are given more rights than us. If we did anything that they did, we would be given Joe. So, that's all.
Thank you, Becky. Is anybody else?
I was given a statement for someone who couldn't be here. Could I read it?
Sure.
Okay. This is from, I'm Joe Turner. This is a statement from Ricky Joe Diamond. And I'm not sure all what information she had, but she just wanted to say, I oppose having Lassen County be a sanctuary county. I oppose having marijuana manufacturing business in Herlong or anywhere in Lassen County. Doctors are now warning youth minds at 20 are still biologically developing marijuana as a detriment to that development. Ricky Joe Diamond was certified. So I was just handed this.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Well,
I didn't want to
is there
interrupt.
anybody else who wishes to speak on this comment this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Just one kind of postscript, and that is there has been expressed some concern. I mean, there's a concern that if you don't go along with the federal program, you're going to get federal funding trimmed or cut altogether. There's also a concern that if you don't go along with the state program, including the application for jail funding that we're going to put in by end of business today, that the same thing will happen. Both sides appear to be perfectly willing to use the power of the purse to flog those that don't toe the line. So, for whatever it's worth.
Oh, you're exactly right. I would assume we just, this was good information, it was good discussion, and I think we ought to take this under advisement, put a little more thought into it, and I think we all get a chance to go home and read all this information you put together in this next little packet for us.
Yeah.
And then maybe at our next meeting or something, we can put together a little ad hoc committee to maybe see about writing up a resolution, whether it's the sanctuary county or if it's a position on SB 54, whatever we kind of come up with, and just
Call it the rule of law. I mean,
Yeah.
it's immigration is an issue on how we do our laws and how we enforce those.
Let's talk about what kind of position stand we want to take in publicly.
The material here is just, I mean, I could have brought reams of paper.
Oh, you just scratched the surface.
Just Google. Just Google it. And you begin the process of attempting to educate yourself about this through the public domain. There's a lot of material to work with.
So, why don't we look at taking this up at our next meeting?
Do whatever you want.
The next one is pretty long.
I think that we should expedite the SB 45 resolution.
54.
Well, I didn't look at that close, but I'm sure it's still in the legislative process, so nothing will happen all this until.
Senator De Leon has announced an intention to fast track it.
If it pleases the board, I would be happy to work with the sheriff.
That's what you got to do.
I think we need to do, I think that needs done immediately on that. And then, on the other thing, we're kind of like Bob just pointed out, in the rock and hard space on the.
There's 57 other counties in the same boat.
Yeah.
Now 55.
So let's, well, why don't we do that then, Richard? And then that way we'll have something to work with the next meeting. Probably let you and me work on crafting a proclamation or resolution or something, or a letter to the governor.
I think it must, we'll see how it goes. I think it most likely be a letter opposing that proposed legislation.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
And then we can have that for our next meeting. And we can kind of go from there. Okay, so with that then, that takes care of that. Mention the staff. Let's move on to H9, which is information for the board of supervisors.
Just one item, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to let the board know that we don't have a proposed date yet, but in the near future, we'll be having to have a MoDOT flood control district meeting. So I just wanted to let you know, I think the last couple we've held in MoDOT County. So
So perhaps we'll propose that we have this one in Lassen.
Board rules say that the chair has the call, but there's now no chair because that guy not termed out, but left office, so we now have no chair. So we'll try and work out a plan.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
Richard, can we, I'm just going to throw this out, can you guys pick one on a day, because I know more of our things on the second and fourth. Like on the third Tuesday or something, we should have a regular board meeting
We could, and then.
in Big Valley, and then have that meeting.
Sure, you'd like to have a meeting in Big Valley?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to go there anyway, so why not?
Bob was going there.
Absolutely.
Perhaps the 21st or 28th.
We should have one up there for Susan's sake anyway.
Could be the,
Next meeting.
we'll shoot for the 21st, so that'd be the third Tuesday, which I don't think we'll have meetings.
If you can coordinate.
I'd like to see the one.
Good stuff.
I'm sure all the repairs will be done.
That's all I have.
If that's it, then we want to go into closed session
Yes.
right now. So we'll go ahead and adjourn from our regular meeting and then go into closed session.
We're recessed from our regular meeting, yes, and then go into continue closed session, and then we'll thereafter.
Is it, it's not O1? It sounded like O1.